I said I will retire by 40, so I'm 42 now, and I'm very proud that my husband and I will be able to retire in 7 months.
Amazing.
Hi, I'm Clarissa, and I'm on a mission to encourage families to talk money at home.
She has also authored 5 children books that teach money values, and next 5 are coming out soon, so we're very excited for that. Aiming to create a money school for kids and teenagers to turn them into money mathematicians.
I was sharing stories to my friends, and they're like, oh, we never really talked about money at home. So money was a taboo. In fact, there's a section here wherein I said, why is money taboo? It's very important. All of us use it, if not every day. Then how come we don't have that space to talk about it? So when I became a mom, I realized that before we can even teach our kids how to invest, we need to teach them good money values. I really want to bring down the money concepts, age-appropriate vocabulary that our kids will be able to understand even at a young age.
It's not that we want to, burden children with, let's talk about money, bills, and all these things. It's not that, right? But I think it's the appreciation behind it. Do you see that in your children?
Yes, unless she's 9 now, so she's, more curious than ever. They actually ask me, oh, can I earn money at a young age? So we've actually written there, it's equally a blessing to give and to receive. Because I was taught, growing up, I hear this in schools, like it's better to give than to receive. So I want to change that, reframe it. It's equally a blessing to give and to receive. We also need to know how to make our money work for us. And that's actually the concept of investing.
What is the last value that you have to pass down to your children? So welcome to the Men on a Mission podcast, where we interview visionary leaders who serve their stakeholder before their shareholders. Today we have an amazing guest, Clarissa. She's my personal role model, and today she's going to share all about how she teaches children money values, which I think is so important in today's world.
Hi, I'm Clarissa, and I'm on a mission to encourage families to talk about money at home.
Welcome to the podcast, Clarissa. How are you feeling?
I'm good. I'm grateful. Thanks for having me here, and I'm very excited to share and talk about my message today.
Amazing. Now, can you share a bit more about where you come from, right? And how do you get started on all these?
Okay, so I'm originally from Manila in the Philippines. So I moved to Singapore 11 years ago. So I'm 42 years old now. When I was 20, I was a fresh grad. I swore to myself that I will retire by 40.
Wow.
And now I have 2 beautiful children. They're 7 and 9. So Alessi is my 9-year-old, and then Basti is my 7-year-old son.
Which is the name of the book.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So they've been an inspiration for coming up with the children's books that, again, we will talk about today.
Amazing. So tell me, what was it like, right, at 20 years old when you decided that I want to retire at 40? Because I believe this word retire or retirement is overly used, right? Everyone is saying, oh, you need to retire by this age. This is what you're going to do. This is what you have to plan for your financial freedom, so on and so forth. And you are the living, breathing person, someone who actually done that and been there before, right? So tell me, what was it like at 20 years old when you decided on that?
Okay, so at 20, so that's when I graduated from the university. And obviously, I was so excited for my first job, for my first paycheck. And then my husband now, Miko, so we were just friends back then. We weren't together yet. So he actually told me to read the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Robert
Kiyosaki. Yeah, I think it's very famous. Like,
yes, in Singapore.
Yes. Yeah. So that's actually where I learned the concept of passive income. I think, if I have to remember one thing from that book, it's actually passive income, because I thought it's going to be just active income that will make me rich, that will make me more money. But actually, there's a concept that really stuck to me. And then I said, okay, if I'm able to build passive income, I'd actually be able to retire early. So, and I think we all have, as you said, we all have different definitions of what retirement is.
Yeah.
But essentially, it's freedom. Freedom to choose whatever we want to do. So we can still work after we retire early, but then it's now doing the things that we feel most passionate about and not really working for money, but you're working for a bigger cause and really just enjoy what you do every day.
So tell me about where are you right now in terms of financial freedom or retirement planning, right? What do you have that allow you to go like, okay, you know what? I'm done with my corporate job. Now it's time to do something I love.
Right. So I said I will retire by 40. So I'm 42 now. And I'm very proud that my husband and I will be able to retire in 7 months.
Amazing.
So by mid next year. So again, coming from what we learned from Robert Kiyosaki, our passive income are mainly from properties. So actually, after reading that book, we got into property investing and we really wanted to learn the ropes. So we attended a lot of investment classes. We attended passive income classes.
Amazing. And how many properties do you have right now, if you could share with the audience?
Yes. So I took up this course 7 years ago, back in 2017. It's property investing in the UK. Yes. So it kickstarted here in Singapore, like a 3-day boot camp.
Yeah.
And then they said, okay, if you really want to pursue this and you want a mentor or a coach, then there's a mentorship happening in London. So I actually flew there with my best friend. And then we took it together. And now we have around 8 properties in the UK. But before I actually took that course, my husband and I, we only have one formula. Okay, we're going to work in Singapore and we're going to save 50% of our income and just invest them in properties back home. So, mostly in Manila and then in some parts of the Philippines. And then when we learned about the UK property investing, then we realized, we get so much more returns if we invest in the UK.
Yeah.
So we sort of shifted our portfolio. So after that, we were still investing in the Philippines, but then we were also skewing our savings to buy in the UK.
Amazing. And now you have 8 properties in the UK.
Yes.
I believe you have some in Philippines as well.
Yes.
How many of them?
Around 5.
So 13 in total.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
You're ready to retire. But today we're not here to talk about UK property investment, right?
Maybe for another day.
Maybe for another day, yeah. We are here to talk about books, right?
Yes.
Books for children and teaching money values to children, right? So what is your vision in these? Why are you writing so many books? Why are you talking about money values for children? What are you advocating for?
Okay, so I grew up in a family wherein we talked about money at home. Okay, so I actually started learning about money at 5 years old.
5 years old?
Yes. So our parents would give us these bamboo banks. So it's like piggy bank, Filipino version. And then our parents said, we will double whatever you save by the end of the year.
Wow.
Yes. So that really taught me to make mindful money decisions.
Yeah.
At an early age. You're just in the school canteen and you're like, okay, how much do I really want this cookie? Knowing that, my $1 will become $2 by December. So it's a very good exercise.
So did they do that diligently every year from 5 years old?
Yes.
Wow.
Until I think we're college, like we were adults and like, okay, you're ready to manage your own money.
Right.
Yeah.
I see.
And then actually my dad taught me the stock market at 12 years old.
12 years old?
Yes. So
You're
I was
very
in grade
forward
6.
for your time.
Yes. So I was in grade 6. And, the stock market looked different back then.
Yes.
Obviously, there was no online stock market. And then my dad would bring us to the stock exchange during our off days from school. And then at the same time, you have to watch the TV. Remember those, those numbers scrolling at the footer. So, that was what my dad was doing. And we saw that every day. And then he actually explained it in a very simple way. He said, if you buy shares, if you buy stocks, you actually become an owner of this company. So it's very simple, nothing technical, nothing stock market jargon, but it's stuck to me. And then when that company earns, you also earn. So it's as simple as that.
At 12-year-old?
Yes. So, we have our savings from our bamboo banks. We have our birthday gifts, your red packets.
Yeah.
So where do you put that, right? Do you buy toys or do you want to invest in the stock market? Because if they grow, then your money will grow too.
I see.
And then I learned budgeting at 13.
Wow.
Yes. So in grade school, our allowance was given on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And then in high school, our allowance was given on a weekly basis. Therefore, I learned how to budget my money to last me for 5 days.
5 days. So important.
Yes, so
Yeah.
just 5 days. But then again, things are running in my mind before I even purchase something.
Yeah.
So I think that's really the exercise behind it. And then in college, in the university, our allowance was given on a monthly basis. So I learned how to budget my money similar to that of a salaried employee, even before I started working.
Very good practice and habit building.
Yes, yes. So those are just some, and actually there's a lot, and I shared them in my first book. I wish they taught money in school. So this is where I shared a lot of my childhood stories and how our parents actually raised me and my 3 other siblings.
Yeah. And that got you to the next few books as well.
Yes, so that was the start. And then when I started working, I realized that not everyone talked money at home. So I would have friends or colleagues, and then they would really share that, oh, I'm living from paycheck to paycheck. So again, that's another advocacy why I wrote this. In fact, the tagline is, I wish they taught money in school, so I'm not dependent on my paycheck.
Oh, that's so good.
Yes. So that's the start of the advocacy. I was sharing stories to my friends, and they're like, oh, we never really talked about money at home. So money was a taboo. In fact, again, there's a section here wherein I said, why is money taboo? Like, it's very important. All of us use it almost, if not every day. Then how come we don't have that space to talk about it? Yes.
Yeah. So what's your dream?
Okay, so now my dream is to have a money school. When I wrote this book, and then my friends have read it, they would still tell me that, how come even after reading all your tips, I still can't get myself out of credit card debt, or I still can't bring myself to invest. And that's when I realized that their money habits are deeply ingrained in them already.
Yeah.
So when I became a mom, I realized that before we can even teach our kids how to invest, we need to teach them good money values. Because ultimately our habits and our behavior, and not just for money, but in psychology in general, they actually started when we were young.
Yes.
Right? Because of the values and the beliefs that started during our childhood. So again, my vision is a full-blown money school. It will start with the money values, which we will talk about today.
Yeah.
And then after we have taught them good money values, good money beliefs, then I would like to stack it with money concepts. So as easy as needs and wants that translate to assets and liabilities. So I want to explain that. In fact, I'm teaching that to my 9-year-old already. She's like, what are assets and liabilities? Because I think she hears it from me and my husband talk about it.
I see.
So it's as easy as assets put money in your pocket, liabilities take money out of your pocket. So I really want to bring down the money concepts in a vocabulary that our kids, age-appropriate vocabulary that our kids will be able to understand even at a young age. And then the last tack is money math. So it's to teach them the math behind investing, behind properties. And I actually have a name for it already. It's money mathician.
Money mathematician.
Yes.
So it's a combination of money and mathematician.
Yes. Because, we all learn algebra, trigonometry.
Without the context, right?
Yes. And it's actually easier than algebra, trigonometry, calculus that we learn in university. So I want to teach that. Yeah.
So will you have that school in Singapore or in Manila or all over the world?
Oh, I'm thinking go global.
Why not, right?
Yes. Yeah. So, we all now learn online. So I'm thinking of doing an online school and then probably match or couple that with face-to-face trainings. Depends, really.
Yeah.
I'm not there yet. I only have the concept. So hopefully it's going to be soon.
Amazing. I think we all want to support your dream.
Oh, thank
and
you.
see that happen one day
Thank
for
you,
the
thank
kids and
you.
the future generation. So important. So I'm very excited to deep dive into this. And I believe a lot of parents, or, if you have any relatives at home who are very young, right, and you want to start to have the money conversation with them early. Because maybe individually, I guess for me, I came from a background where my dad is in business. So the context of how I learn money is through business.
Oh, okay.
Right? It's not really through investment or passive income, right? So it's a slightly different context altogether. And I believe it's the same for a lot of audience as well. Maybe some families don't even talk about money at all, right? Or maybe some families talk about money as a savings concept, not investing, right? But I think you're here living, breathing, and the person who said at 20 years old that I want to retire at 40, and you really did it. So there's a lot of credibility to what you're going to say and how you're going to tell us more about how you teach money values to your child.
Yes.
Okay, so let's deep dive into it. I'm very excited. So let's talk about your books. How do I navigate? What is the first book I should read if I were to start?
Okay. So so I have a business partner, and one of my best friends, Monique, Leonardo Carlos. So we came up with the Safi Squirrel books. Okay, so maybe I'll explain how it started first.
Yeah.
So Monique is a early childhood educator. So what she advocates for is that our kids are really learning more from home rather than school. Because when we think about, our kids are learning stuff, they're learning it from school. But her advocacy is that it actually starts at home. And even if, you put them in a school, they'll actually absorb more what's being modeled or being taught at home.
Yeah.
So when I wrote my first two books, she approached me and she's like, let's do children's books. But then it didn't really occur to me yet because I didn't have kids back then. She had kids earlier than I did.
Okay.
So she had kids by then. That's why she was thinking that. And then she also owned a school. So I think, that's where her advocacy is. So I said, okay, finally, we have time. This was back in 2021 when we conceptualized this. And my contribution are the money values. And then she brought them to life in beautiful stories that we will look at in a bit.
Yeah.
So when I wrote the 10 money values, I started with money mindfulness. So this is actually our first book, Renee's Ginormous Bag.
Yeah.
And money mindfulness really, again, it starts with knowing needs and wants.
Yeah.
So we actually have a visual here. Again, we're trying to bring down the vocabulary to age appropriate words. So here we have a page. So it says, needs are have to have, and wants are nice to have.
So important.
Yes, and this is actually what we use with our own kids. So is that have to have or is it nice to have? So as simple as, that question, again, it will really just make them think and be more mindful.
And what do you think money mindfulness is so important as the first value? Why do you start off with this one? What was the inspiration behind it?
Yeah. So a lot of, again, the exercises that, my parents did with me and with my siblings at home, it's really to make us think. If you think about it, it's really for us to make financial decisions at a very young age.
Right.
And it's really just about stopping, pausing and ask yourself, do I really need this? Or how much do I want this? The cookie story, like how much do I want this cookie? Is my $1 worth it? Or would I rather wait for December when my $1 will actually become $2?
Yeah.
So there's really a lot of things happening in my mind, which I feel actually forms the basis of all the other money values. And it will always go back to being mindful about our money and how we manage our finances.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point because for parents these days, right? I mean, they like to pamper their child a lot. Right. So anytime the children, I want this toy, right? I want to go to Universal Studio.
Yes.
Right. I want to go here. I want to go there. There isn't the consideration of how much it actually costs.
Right.
Right. So it's not that we want to, burden children with, let's talk about money, bills and all these things. Not that, right? But I think it's the appreciation behind it.
Yes,
and
definitely.
And I believe in one conversation we had, you talk about how your child, I think it was Alexi, that asked you, oh, what does mommy need to work?
Yes,
Yeah. Could you share
yes.
more about that?
Yes, I think all of our kids ask that, right? Like at one point, like, oh, why do you have to go to the office every day? And then we started working from home, and then like, oh, you're at home, but you're still working. Why are you still working even when you're at home? And I actually took that as a teachable moment. We're in. It's really just a matter of explaining things to them and processing it with them. Oh, when we work hard, we actually earn money because we have to pay for everything that you practically see in this house. So we have to pay for food, we have to pay for our electricity, we have to pay for water, we have to pay for your school, and then all of the things that you want, your toys, your books, your clothes, the videos that you watch, the music that you listen to, oh, they're not for free, and then these kids actually think because it's just there every day. They actually think, oh, it's just there without having to learn or not being mindful that actually my parents are working hard for me to enjoy all of these things and for me to have a comfortable life.
Yeah. It's funny, right? Because I'll imagine passive aggressive parents will be like, oh, then you don't work, you got no money, how to feed you?
Yeah.
It's usually that kind of conversation,
yes.
right? So what would you say to parents, right? What that teachable moment, why is it so important?
Yeah, it's really about mindful parenting also. So I read a lot of parenting books, and the common theme is really just to be mindful of how we our relationship with our kids. So I think when we are mindful with our kids, we find those teachable moments. So what are those? Basically, you don't have to come up with a money lesson plan or anything that you want to teach your kids, right? Like you want to teach your kids healthy habits. So it's not like, okay, I need to come up with a lesson plan. Oh, what will I tell them today?
Yeah.
It's really about being child-led. So let them ask you questions, or maybe, let them experience a moment, and then you just use that moment to actually teach them the lesson. So I really want to teach the parents, the money value such that they already know it by heart. So when something happens, again, you don't really need to think of, okay, what am I going to say? What was the lesson from Safi's girl?
Yeah.
It's not about that. It's really because they're already immersed to the values as well. Then they can just pick up a value and they can just naturally process that moment with their child.
So how young was Alexi when she asked that question? Oh, why does mommy need to work? Why are you working at home?
Oh, back in preschool.
Preschool, that's about?
She was like 4.
4?
Yes.
Do you think she understand?
I don't know, but you've tried to find explanation that hopefully she would get it. I think for kids, it's like they want to spend time with us.
Yeah.
Right? So the moment that you have to go or you have to do something when you're busy at home, they're like, why are you always busy? Or why don't you have time for me?
Yeah.
Or, I want to play. Why later? Why tonight? So it's really just taking that, precious moment and explain to them that, we'll have playtime later, but this is work time for mom, so we just need to explain how we earn money also. So I started talking to her about what my job is. She's like, what do you do at work? So it also becomes a bonding experience because they're now very curious. What does daddy do at work? So, what does grandma used to do at work? So it's actually good. It's good exposure for them that, there are many ways to earn money and this is how our family does it.
So I want to talk about the second book because I think it's quite interesting. And it is the idea of waiting, right?
Yes.
Patience. And I feel that kids rarely get bored these days and they are so overwhelmed with lots of content on Netflix, YouTube, right? Their shows. Right? I was just looking at the new cartoon Coco Melon recently and I realized that every 3 seconds they're changing scene. So after a while, I get a bit giddy because it's content overload for me.
Yes.
And when I look at cartoon from the past, 20 years back, right, it's so slow paced.
Yes.
Right. So I feel that in this world where they are surrounded by a lot of noise, right, they get a lot more, anxious, impatient. Everything is instant.
Yes.
right? So how do you cultivate patience in a child in this environment?
Yes, so that's why we wrote the second book. So Raphael stretches his patience. So this talks about delayed gratification. Okay, so, and again, delayed gratification is such a big word for the kids. So what we did was we translated it into, again, easy to understand. So good now is instant gratification. Better later is delayed gratification. So it's a story about, obviously, as you can see, they want to eat the cake
Yeah.
as soon as it popped out of the oven. But then, mommy said, okay, if you wait for it to cool, if we put frosting, then it's just better later. So there's delayed gratification. And there's a lot of research now showing how delayed gratification and mindfulness, again, we'll go back to that, are really related, because when you teach your kids how to wait, then you allow, a pause, or you allow them to stop again and really just enjoy the moment and look forward to what's to come. So it's good now, okay, but then, if we wait, then it's better later.
Yeah. So what are some examples that you applied on Alexia and Vesti and worked for you?
Right. So, everything is instant.
Yeah.
Especially for them. And they think it was like this before our time. They don't have an idea that, we had to wait for our favorite song to come up in the radio.
Yeah.
To
Or the 8 p.m. show that you only watch on Saturday evening, something like that, right? Yeah.
Or the cartoon blocks and, let's say, Saturday mornings. And then after that, that's it. We're left to be bored. And actually there's boredom is actually so beautiful. And again, we take it for granted because now the kids are just not bored enough. Right? They're just so bombarded with too much.
Yeah.
So with Alessi and Basti, and, especially you're growing up in Singapore, and, we have to admit that in Singapore, you even use your digital apps to queue.
Yes.
Right? But sometimes when we're allowed to physically queue, I'm actually, again, very mindful not to even distract myself by mindless scrolling. So when I'm out with them, I make sure that my phone is out of sight as well. And then we try to be bored at the same time.
Right. And how did that struggle? Right. Were they very noisy? Were they making noise?
Yeah. So
you're like,
I know. Yeah. So obviously, they're kids, kids being kids. I mean, adults complain about waiting, right? So all the more kids, and they don't really understand it. So what we do is we try to convert boredom into something creative. So in fact, again, we wrote them in the book. So we created a waiting chant. So it was really, again, find those teachable moments.
Yeah.
And here, while we were queuing one time, I just told them, okay, let's make a chant, and then you can help mommy as well. So now we came up with a chant, and we've actually, again, wrote them in the book. And this is an actual chant that I do with my kids. So waiting can be great, just like icing on a cake. In the end, it's all so sweet. Clap your hands to make a beat.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah, and then I would just make them follow my beats, like, then they have to do it.
Yeah.
Now, my very cheeky boy, Basti, he would come up with, again, cheekiness in the chant. He would go like, waiting is not great. I'm so bored. Look at me. And then, we would still laugh. Yeah. But then it's a practice we still do. And then they just came up with different variations. And then, before you know it, it's your turn. The cue's done.
Yeah. And I believe it's so hard for parents these days, right? Because they're so tired from work. And nowadays, both parents are working, right? So every time there is a family gathering, they go out and, they're waiting for food at a restaurant. Naturally, the device will come up, right? The iPad will have to appear. Otherwise, they won't be able to control the kid because of temperament, because of their, they just can't wait and be bored, right? So I think it's very tough for parents these days. So how do you cultivate that mindfulness and that habit, right, for parents?
Right. So I really love books. So actually, wherever we go, we bring books. So especially, we have the waiting chant, but sometimes in the queue, or maybe when I'm not with them, they actually have a book with them.
I see.
Yeah, when we ride the MRT, they have a book with them, especially if they know it's going to be a long ride.
Yeah.
So for us, it's really about, again, taking that opportunity to actually talk with our children. Because I'm busy. My husband, Miko, he's busier than me. But then those are actually the moments wherein you're gathered together and you just talk. And maybe it's the perfect opportunity to talk about money values. Because again, you're waiting, you help them anticipate the food that's coming. Like, oh my God, are we so hungry? Like, we can't wait for our ice cream. So it's actually delayed gratification. So while we teach them to wait, again, waiting doesn't need to be boring, or it doesn't need to be like really just waiting and depriving yourself of joy.
Yeah.
We can turn that into a teachable moment just by our mindful parenting.
I love it when you talk about teachable moments, right? So I think we talk about screen time as well. So what is it like for your household? Do you have an iPad for your children? Do you have a phone for your children?
So my kids are off gadgets. In fact, we don't have iPads because my husband and we don't even own our iPads. Also, so
Yeah.
I think it also boils down to ourselves being mindful also that we will use our downtime to really just rest and be with their kids. So my kids don't have a choice. There's no iPad to grab or an iPad to ask permission for.
Yeah.
They do have screen time, and don't get me wrong, it's not like they're zero screen time. We do have Netflix. We do have, we watch Disney Plus together, but it's just on one screen. So we only have one TV at home and we have to share it. So again, they have to take turns to watch.
Yeah.
Because again, they have to learn that, okay, we only have one gadget. You don't have one gadget each. Therefore, we have to learn how to wait again.
Yeah.
And it's actually amazing when you teach them mindfulness, because they themselves would say, okay, I'm done watching my one video for the day. Because now they're in grades 2 and 4. So they have a lot of homework. So they actually they only have enough time to watch one video a day.
Yeah.
And it all circles back, right? So we teach them needs and wants. It also actually evolves. I mean, it's beyond money. So in terms of their responsibilities at home, in terms of their chores, it's also needs and wants. So in fact, again, in this book, we have a Safi Squirrel quote. So we call them Safi Says, that says, needs first, wants second.
Right.
So again, it's something they repeatedly hear at home. And it's something we use beyond just, in a toy store, wherein they come home from school and they know they have 3 needs to do. So first is take a bath, okay, eat dinner, and then finish your homework. And then we can go to your wants, which is, do we play together? We play board games, sometimes card games, or you can watch your video. So even, again, hopefully the books expand beyond just the topic of money.
Yeah. And I love it how you make it very simple for kids to understand.
Yes.
Yeah. Needs first, wants second. So simple.
Yes.
And it rhymes, right? So it kind of like sticks with you and you can use it over and over again. Not just for money, but also for other life choices as well.
Yes. Yeah. And that's really the mission behind the books, right?
Yeah.
Like, again, instant gratification, delayed gratification. It's too much. Like, how do you explain that?
Yeah. And I want to say, right, Clarissa here, she's a full-time working mom, by the way. So she's not a full-time working, or she's not full-time mom, right? So she also have to balance between work and children and taking care of children, right? So I think the idea where you share about teachable moments is so important, because it's not about, okay, I need to have I'm so stressed over, I need to have a curriculum, by this age they should learn this and so on and so forth. But how you use these books and the snippets in it to have that teachable moments every now and then, which I think is so important.
Yes.
Yeah. In the next part, we'll go deep dive in the other books, right? I think there's a lot more values that we can inculcate in children. So stay tuned.